Welcome back to my channel if you've already seen my videos and if you're a subscriber, and if you're new to this channel, my name is Brandon. I live in Sweden. I'm from America. I'm a registered nurse and I moved here a year ago. So I've been making videos lately about what's going on in my life, and today is an update. I apologize if I've got a lot of perspiration. It is extremely hot here in Sweden, which is crazy because I moved to Sweden to get away from the heat in Texas. But yeah, it's super humid. I've got the doors closed because I don't want you to hear all the street noise on the recording. So yeah, it's crazy hot in here in my apartment right now. I'm actually looking forward to the autumn when the weather is going to get a bit cooler. So we just had a rainstorm, and so you got all the humidity, plus it was pretty hot, and most places around here in Sweden don't have air conditioning, so then there's that. But yeah, so I've got some big news for you guys today. So this is my first week working in Sweden. I've been living here for an entire year. I haven't been working. I've been in school studying Swedish because in order to work in healthcare system, you have to know English. I'm sorry, not English, Swedish. I feel like my English is going out the window here lately. I'm so exhausted and tired today. Oh my goodness, this week has been just a whirlwind of activity. So yeah, so a little bit about what's going on. So I applied to a whole bunch of different jobs and was getting denied, and really the issue is I'm both overqualified and underqualified for every single thing that I applied for. So I'm overqualified in the sense that I've got a master's degree in nursing as a nurse practitioner in the United States. I'm certified. I've got almost 12 years experience as a registered nurse. I'm certified as a diabetes educator, and of course certified as a acute care geriatric nurse practitioner. So when people see that here and I'm applying for these other kinds of jobs that are sort of entry-level jobs or jobs that don't require what they call legitimation, basically like that I'm registered, I guess legitimation, is that even an English word? I have no idea, but that's what it looks like, is legitimation, that I'm legitimized here in Sweden. And so yeah, I have to have that in order to be able to work as a nurse. And in order to get that, there was all these steps I got to go through, and one of those was I have to, of course, learn the language well enough to pass a nursing test. And even though I speak a whole lot of Swedish within a very short period of time, there is medical terminology. That's like a whole nother language in itself, and I do not speak that very well. So I did some practice tests and practice nursing exams and saw there is no way I'm going to be able to pass this thing. I need some more time. But I've got to work too because I've used up my savings that I had put back to live here for a whole year. And so yeah, got to get a job. So a lot of the places I applied to, they're like, oh, you're going to be bored, you're not going to be happy, you're not going to stay with us. You've got all these qualifications, why aren't you applying to be a nurse? Well, of course I want to apply to be a nurse, but I can't be a nurse because I don't speak enough Swedish to do that. So that's been quite tricky for me. So I've been over and underqualified. Underqualified for nursing because I don't have my legitimation, and overqualified for everything else. Well, thankfully, what I ended up doing is I found something on Facebook. I'd say if you're here in Sweden or in any other country and you're trying to get established there and you're looking for work, it's probably a good idea to just look in all sorts of places, including social forums. So on Facebook, I found there was actually a group here in Sweden, and it was to look for work. So I'll have to look and see. I'll pop a picture in here on the video and you can see which one it was. But I was able to find a group here in Helsingborg, where I live. I live in that area of Sweden. And I just wrote in Swedish that this is my situation, I'm looking for work, and my Swedish isn't what I'd like it to be, but I would like to work here. And then someone sent a recommendation. They said, hey, check with so-and-so. I'm not going to mention the name of the company just yet since I just started working for them. But it was home health care. Now, I have no experience with home health care. This is a completely new thing for me. I've always worked in a hospital setting, and so I was a little nervous about that, but I applied for, I thought, well, I'll just work as a personal assistant. It's not very much money, but at least I can get some experience working with people and work on practicing my language skills. The other issue is the Swedish I learned, it's kind of a more standard Swedish, but here I live in Skånska, which is the south of Sweden, and they have a whole nother dialect. So I basically feel like I'm having to learn two different languages right now. It's kind of like the difference of, say, like Texas English, like real deep in Texas out in the country, versus, say, someone in the east side of London, like a Cockney English. I mean, it's quite different. In fact, I've heard a lot of people here in Skåne say that when they go to other places in Sweden, such as in Stockholm, the Swedish people there have trouble understanding them, and they just say, hey, can we just speak English to each other, even though they're both Swedish. So I've heard that from a lot of people. It's pretty interesting that there's so much variation in a country the size of Sweden. When you look at the US, you have to go real far many times to be able to see a variation in dialect. But here, no, you can just drive 30 minutes to another town and they've got a whole nother accent. So that was a huge challenge, and I was just real nervous about working with people, and not being able to understand them. I wanted to make sure that I could go somewhere that I can, kind of ease into that. So they were extremely helpful for me in that whole process, and they were like, yeah, we're gonna work with you, it's okay, your Swedish is super, super good, the medical terminology is gonna come, you'll be able to work with the nurse. And so they were super helpful. They said, you're probably not gonna be happy in the job that you applied for, which was like a personal assistant. They said, let's get you in a role where you're basically like a under nurse. They call it undersköterska. Undersköterska, I gotta work on saying that right. There's this combination that's kind of hard to do in the Swedish language, SK sound. So anyways, yeah, so they said, we'll get you in that, and then you will be able to do extra things since you have education as a nurse, but you won't be able to do everything. We just had to validate with another nurse to make sure that you know what you're doing. So that is what I did this week. I worked 3 days this week. I am totally exhausted speaking Swedish all day long. The majority of the people, even in my workplace, do not speak English. A lot of them, they may know some English words and things like that. So I can only speak Swedish all day long. There are a few people that know some English words. I actually met a nurse who is called a bemanningssjuksköterska, which is like a travel nurse, a contract nurse, and he's worked a couple shifts there this week. And so he speaks extremely good English, and so if I get stuck on a word, I'll run it by him and be like, hey, I'm not really sure I understand this or how to say this, and he'll clarify for me. So they're super, super supportive. I'm extremely appreciative. But I was a nervous wreck. I remember the first day I walk in the door and I'm like, hey, jag heter Brennan. Hey, my name's Brennan, just trying to be all friendly and everything, introduce myself, and I'm there with the nurse, and then the patient is like, du pratar engelska. I was like, I'm not speaking English, I'm speaking Swedish. But actually her and I have we've really connected, and she really looks forward to me coming over, and now she calls me Texas because she can't say my name Brandon, so that's kind of gotten to be a joke with a lot of the patients. I thought my name was a simple name, but it's kind of hard for some of the older patients to remember my name, so so I may end up having to come up with a Swedish name that is close to Brandon for people to remember my name easily. She's like, I'm just gonna call you Texas every time you come. I've been doing a lot of wound care, so that's been a good learning experience for me. I've dealt with wounds, but not to the extent that I'm dealing with it now. So definitely learning a lot there. I am working 4 days a week. I needed a little bit of free time so that I can continue to work on medical terminology. I'm actually doing a medical terminology course through Lund. It's a distance course. And so hopefully between working as a under nurse and then also doing this course through Lund, I will be ready to take my nursing examination in the wintertime. So that's what's going on. It's been crazy though. I mean, even the payment method, sorry, I'm sweating so much. Even the payment system here, it's very difficult for me. I've got some videos I've done before about that where I really struggled, and I got some kind of hateful comments from some people that live here in Sweden, and I think the thing is they don't know because they grew up in this system, but when you come from another country outside of the EU, it's really, really difficult process. There's all these steps you gotta go through, and it's not Sweden so much as that's just what comes with when you move to a new country. If you move from Sweden to the US, it's gonna be the same exact thing. So it just is difficult. Like, I'll give you an example. When I started working here, they said, okay, we need your mobile bank ID. So I guess the best way to compare that is PayPal. So here in Sweden, there's this thing called mobile bank ID, and that's how you get paid. That's how you send money to each other. That's how you identify yourself on the internet. I mean, it's an amazing system, but I can't get it. And the reason for that being, I don't have a personal identification number. The closest thing to that being in the United States is a social security number. I can't get the social security number unless I meet certain criteria, and it's very, very difficult. And You know, things are very siloed here. I think it's siloed probably in most countries though, really. You have all these different agencies you have to talk to for different things, and they don't talk to each other, so there's a lot of running around that you got to do. So for example, I have to talk to the migration agency, Migrationsverket, about my residency to be able to stay here. So I applied. I had a student, basically it's called a UT card. It's like a student and work visa. I was able to stay here for 11 months, and then they say after you've done 2 semesters you can apply for an extension for 12 months to look for work, and you can continue studying. So, but you can't apply for that until the last day of school, and you have to have all your grades. Well, your grades aren't going to be published that quick, and then you only have like to the end of your student thing runs out. So I had like a 2-week gap to apply, and I was like waiting for my grades, so it was like extremely stressful, getting down to the wire. And then basically because I'm American, I'm staying here on my passport for 3 months after that. So as soon as the student thing ran out, then I'm here for another 3 months on my passport, and I can actually stay here after that. I just can't leave the country, because if I leave, then I may not be allowed to come back in. So I can stay here indefinitely until I get an answer from the migration agency as to if they're going to grant me a 12-month extension. But then I'm like looking on the website, you can actually go in there and be like, oh, how long is it taking to get an answer? The first time I checked, about a month or so ago, they said 4 to 5 months if everything's in order to get your answer, if you can stay for 12 more months. But then I checked again yesterday, and it's saying it's taking up to 8 months to get an answer. I'm like, what if you're here 8 months and then you get an answer and the answer is no? So that's a little stressful, but I'm sure that's not just the situation here in Sweden. It's going to be like that anywhere you go when you move to another country. So then there's that. So because I'm waiting on the answer from Migrationsverket, I cannot apply for a personnummer. The personnummer comes from the tax agency, so Skatteverket, that's a whole nother agency. So they need the document from Migrationsverket before I can apply for the personnummer. And I cannot get the mobile bank ID until I have the personnummer. So there's like all these steps. So then they're like, well, we don't know how to pay you. Everybody we pay here, we pay with mobile bank ID, and we're gonna have to look into this. And so they were working real hard on that, trying to come up with a work agreement that we could sign for how to pay me and everything. And so they figured something out. I don't know what the solution is going to be, but because it's a cashless society here, almost nobody uses cash. There are a few people, but it's extremely rare. It's not safe to have cash. That's, if you want to see some of my other videos about that, you can see that. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole other thing. I mainly want to focus on today about my first week of working. So I'm exhausted, I'm worn out, but it's a good worn out. I feel like I learned so much. I learned so many Swedish words this week. It's just insane. Yeah, so I'm quite hopeful. I'm feeling very hopeful that my Skånska is going to improve, and then of course regular Swedish as well. And then, yeah. So I'll keep y'all guys posted. If you have any questions, feel free to comment in the comment section. Make sure to subscribe and like if this information is helpful to you, because that helps me keep continuing to do what I'm doing. I'm not getting paid anything for these videos. I've only got, I hit 601 subscribers, so I'm super excited about that. But it does give me a lot of energy and inspire me when I get good feedback from you guys and I get to help you out. I've had the opportunity to give some counsel to a few people, and so that's extremely rewarding to me, and that gives me the motivation to do more. So thank you so much for listening. Like I said, like, subscribe. If you've got some questions, make sure to put those down in the comment section. And if you got suggestions of other things you'd like me to talk about, make sure and let me know that too. And you'll have a wonderful rest of your week. Look forward to talking to y'all again soon. Take care.